Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at altcoins. And I don't take pleasure in providing bad news to people, but it has been a clear trend path down on the alt index, which is total 2 minus stables divided by BTC, for quite some time. So it is of no surprise to me and anybody paying attention, including Ben Cowan. He gets a lot of crap from people, but I'm right there with him in agreement. There is very little technical evidence using the indices that alts have been the play here at any point since 2021. Inevitably, somebody always lets me know that, Mother has done really well, or some XYZ coin has done really well over the past week. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about multi-month, in this case, multi-year downtrend as a group. So if this were an index to trade, it remains a short. Individually, there are some names that are holding up better than others. Solana, for instance, holding up better than most. Outside of that, as a group, even individually, meme coins, DeFi, Layer 2, RWA, take your pick, exchange tokens. Mostly everything has done not so good. TON is another example that some coins can have strength in this period, but it is very, very rare. It is exceedingly rare. So what do? You size down the alt portfolio. It's a bit late for that if you haven't done that already. Or you take the DCA long-term approach and you say to yourself, I hope eventually this turns around. It's turned around previously a few times. If we're talking about alt seasons of yesteryear, alt seasons of yore, and that's perfectly reasonable to expect something like that eventually. But my fear is for most people, they're just sitting in this stuff, getting diluted by inflation of all these coins and just losing purchasing power. Last halving, it took over 300 days to see a real deal bump in this index. And that brings us basically into Q2 2025. So if you're trading any of this stuff right now, I wouldn't expect a miracle, or I would be trading it on a very, very low time frame, and that is very dangerous for most people because, like a moth to a flame, retail tends to gravitate towards the shiniest, most volatile objects, and then they add leverage on top of that, and they just blow up over and over again. So the trend, if you're bullish here, is not your friend because it is going in the opposite direction you want it to go. This is likely happening because global liquidity took a spill lower. What's more important probably isn't the absolute value of global liquidity, but the year-over-year rate of change of global liquidity. In the green there, the blue being the altcoin market cap, reddish pink being the stablecoin market cap. So we are seeing a bit of a divergence here. Early divergence. We're seeing alt MCAP lower, global liquidity higher, stablecoin market cap higher. At some point, we reach a level where there's a significant amount of dollars in the ecosystem ready to chase the lows for these assets or to chase these assets higher. But it doesn't feel like or look like we are there yet. We're talking about bargain basement prices relative to stablecoin liquidity. You'd have to calculate total 2 relative to stablecoin market cap to get what I'm talking about here. But despite the jump in stablecoins, we have not seen that from alts, and that's probably because alts had been extremely overvalued relative to everything else. Looking at Bitcoin dominance, it's not a shocker here that we continue an uptrend. We're above the weekly cloud. We have been above the weekly cloud since January. We've been in or above the weekly cloud on dominance since early 2023. This is just opposite the total 2 over BTC chart, basically. Something else to note is US liquidity remains in a tight range. And let's say we have a recessionary type environment. Typically what we see at that point is a jump in liquidity. And only after that do we see a move lower in dominance. This was COVID back here. It took months for dominance to eventually break down. So at this point, you're potentially holding before the recession gets here, you're holding through the recession, and then you're holding before the liquidity gets here, potentially. So it really just doesn't make sense to hold alts here. Looking at total 2, we're below the 200-day moving average. We're below the cloud, far below the cloud. We're in the wheelhouse of where you'd expect the previous ETH descending triangle to break down to. The question now is, okay, we broke down, we hit the reversal level. Is this the beginning of a bear trend? That's the question. For some assets like Link, they are back to their October breakout level, or they tapped their October breakout level. I'm sure AVAX, ADA, other layer ones are also probably down there. We'll take a look today. But this environment is very different than Q3 2023. So I would just continue to expect alts to be weak relative to BTC, relative to anything else. Here is USDC and USDT isolated. USDC has perked up a little bit. Tether hit a new all-time high. Tether as a business, making money hand over fist with rates as high as they are. But collectively, not really a massive jump in the top 2 stablecoins here by circulating supply. It's up, not a lot, but it is up. And you'll know when the liquidity is here in a bigger way when stablecoin market caps jump dramatically. We may have reached a point where we need so much liquidity from stablecoins in the ecosystem because there are so many circulating tokens, there are so many assets, there's so much inflation that it's just going to get harder and harder and harder to push stablecoins higher, push alts higher without a massive liquidity injection. At this point, we've sat through a few years for some of these newer coins of inflation, of unlocks, of VC selling, and there's just not that many people here to buy all of these circulating tokens. It's just supply demand. Too few dollars chasing too many assets, and you just get weakness across the board. Another index to watch, an index for ZERP froth and retail FOMO, would be ARKK. Now this is a managed basket of interesting stuff. I'll be kind and say interesting stuff. It has broken down below its weekly cloud, below its volume areas. If into Q4 or into 2025, we start to see ARKK perk up, then we will also probably see alts start to do well. A lot of the holdings in ARK are alt-like. They are speaking to the same audience. So something I would do on TradingView is just set an alert at 52 for ARK, and you wait. And my guess is when alts start to recover, ARK will also recover at the same time. Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Paired Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. And I got to start with ETH BTC because previously I had thought ETH BTC would have a decent shot at ranging. I got some angry death threats about that idea, and it's actually done worse than even I expected it to do with the ETFs coming online. Timing wise, for the rest of the market to crumble, that certainly has not helped. The level to watch continues to be 06. Until it's back up there, why should anybody care about this thing? It's either 03 or 06. Otherwise, this is just range chop. Now, what we might see is, okay, maybe this is the low of the pattern, and we get 2 more shoulders going into Q2 or something, right? Like, none of this is suggestive, even in drawing with my purple crayon on the chart here, of being long ETH over BTC. It just isn't. It doesn't make sense. You could trade the range, you could trade the low to the high, fine, whatever. But the meat of this move will not occur, most likely, until 06. We also may be getting what we're seeing on BTC USD, some sort of right-angled descending wedge. And what you can always do here with these patterns is start buying down here, and your stop loss is new lower lows. So set bids down here at NFA, not financial advice. You know, whatever you want to do, somewhere down here, set a bunch of bids, hope they get hit, and if we break lower lows, you're out. I don't love that trade, but you could certainly allocate something to that idea and see what happens as we go forward here. Because looking at BTC, It's a similar story. We are not bullish. Trend is not bullish. 5200 death cross is today or tomorrow. At best, this is a similar right-angled descending wedge. I have it drawn on here as a channel, potentially as a head and shoulders. There's just nothing redeeming about this at the moment. It would have to get back above the daily cloud at 60K, which is quite a ways down from here, up from here. Otherwise, weakness is to be expected. Whether or not we will see the measured move, which at its most extreme would be 33K. If we see that level, there is technical evidence to move down that low. If BTC takes a 40% move lower, alts will not be saved in that environment. So it's hard to be bullish alts when BTC itself does not look bullish. And back to ETH BTC, this could be another reality for ETH BTC. It has been bearish. It's holding bearish for years. It's holding in this channel. It's held thus far in the bullish half of the bearish pitchfork. If we break this midline with fervor and strength, 03 is in the cards. We can say all we want about ultrasound money and blah, 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 blah. But this is the reality of the technicals on ETH BTC. What this does not look like is Sol ETH. Sol ETH is at an all-time high. So what does this tell me? You really need to start measuring alts in Sol rather than in ETH. If ETH is weak, what do I care if something's beating ETH? I need to know if my alt is beating the strongest alt, which currently is Sol. We'll take a look at the USD chart in a second, but even that isn't doing great. It's done well since the bottom. It's up like 40% since the bottom. But Sol ETH is telling you this is where you need to live. But we've got so much tribalism and so many people in denial that for most people that just can't happen. But this chart looks phenomenal. Cloud loves it. Chart patterns love it. Call it a cup and handle, call it a ascending triangle, call it price discovery, whatever. Will this go on forever? I don't know. Will we have some catastrophic bug in Solana in the next 6 months where this drops 80%? I don't know. But right now, this is one of the better looking charts that exist. So measuring everything against Sol makes a lot more sense than ETH right now. And we can point to the ETFs. Sol doesn't have an ETF. It's not going to get an ETF. Blah, 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 right? And none of that matters at all because look at price. Look what price is doing. I don't know what to tell these people. Like, there's just nothing else to say. So on Kraken today, top volume is Tether, which typically means a risk-off stance. Tether is even above $1, which is another indication that there is some flight to safety to a degree. Now, Tether should by default have a slight premium just because it costs fees to mint and burn, but that's usually not where Tether has been. Mostly Tether kind of lives below $1, and you can see it even perked up well above $1 recently. All the more reason to just be careful with alts broadly. Other than the cloud for BTC, other than chart patterns, let's say this mess of a consolidation is bullish, and this is the bottom is in, then we have a grand old time to 100K, right? That was the target before, it's the target now. We can make this even more aggressive, measuring from the wick low to the wick high in March, the all-time high, and that gives you an even higher target. Whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. Just like the lows don't really matter until we determine where we're going. The problem with the wedge, the problem with this consolidation, at the lows, it looks like it's going to go lower, and at the highs, it looks like it's going to go higher. If it does neither of that, it just chops up the breakout people in both directions. So for most people, they should probably do nothing and just ignore price until October when conditions look better to do anything. But this certainly doesn't lean default bullish here. Just like that ETH BTC chart, you could buy anything from here to the low of the wick and then cut everything if we break the wick. I certainly wouldn't do that with size or with massive amounts of leverage, but it is something to do potentially here in the range. Moving to ETH, ETH had this, as you'll probably remember if you've watched this video, at any point in the past 4 weeks, I was talking about two things really, either this inverted head and shoulders that I have drawn out there, or this descending triangle possibility. It never broke above 3,500 to trigger the breakout trade. And on the cloud, It never got back above the cloud. So it's subtle, it's nuanced, but at the same time, this was never clearly bullish at any point post ETF. So the drop makes sense to me. And I know a lot of people are coming in looking to buy the dip. Okay. But on trend, we are not seeing strength. It is what it is. This is going to take time. Moves like this take a lot of time. They take weeks to months to repair, to figure themselves out. The best you can always hope for is a V bottom. We're in the middle of that potentially now, but it is way too early to be certain of anything. And just looking at the cloud on this chart, it is a mess. It is back to the yearly open, back over here. And until BTC is bullish, why would I expect ETH to be bullish? That's not how it's worked historically. We need strength from BTC first. Sol has bounced quite a bit. It's back in the range. It looks okay, but is there anything convincing here? To me, no. Trend is clearly range bound. Cloud is telling you stay out, has been telling you to stay out since 164. If we go to the 3-day cloud, we're still above the cloud. Bearish TK cross. It looks okay. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look like an entry to me. You always want to see bullish TK cross, price above cloud. That is the number one best thing to look for with bullish cloud. Okay, now we are post move looking for reaccumulation, bullish TK recross, price above cloud. We will likely get that if we see 200. So that would be the best entry based on the cloud, based on the breakout, based on negation of the head and shoulders here. So at this point, it's just a whole lot of chop uncertainty back into the bottom of the range overall until we see significant strength. And that's kind of the best looking alt, is just saying, okay, we're back in the range here. Ripple just had some news that they're paying $125 million to it looks like to settle with the SEC. Price is up. Okay, but it's still in the range. It is still below several highs from the past year. And again, we've got this wedge situation potentially until it's back above some high time frame cloud. On trend, it's hard for me to care about, regardless of the move, regardless of the news. It hasn't gone anywhere for a long, long time, and now is not the best time for anything to do anything bullish. Doge got denied at the daily cloud. Down she went. The next entry for this is going to be, no bull div here either. The next entry for this is going to be just like it was in October and February. Price moving through the cloud. You can always buy the lows. You can always DCA. You can always say it's coming back, it's coming back, it's coming back. But on trend, we are not there. We are not bullish at all. The rest of the meme coins, Pepe, broke the bottom of the range, broke the cloud, broke the support. There's nothing redeeming here. Yeah, we can point to candlesticks and low time frame patterns, but you're clearly breaking high time frame structure. And this is just a coin flip. Either way, it's back in the range. This could go lower. This could go back to the middle of the range. I don't know. It doesn't look like a trade here to me. WIF, same thing. Down significantly, up a little bit. What is there to do here on a high time frame? To me, nothing. No bull div, no pattern. Maybe there's something on the 4 hour eventually. We had a previous pretty clean Adam and Eve in July. That's something to look for here. Either an Adam and Eve or an ascending triangle. Anything. It is way too early for that. It needs time to repair. Tau, nothing. You know, this, I think Grayscale announced some trust or something for Tau. There's just nothing there. AVAX on the daily, back to the lows, probably goes back to sub 15, if I had to guess. So if I wanted some blind bids on any of this stuff, it would be all the way back to the October breakout levels for everything. So that's 12 for AVAX. This is not bullish on trend. You can draw channels on this. You can draw pitchforks on this. Nothing here is telling you, yeah, I think this is going to reverse soon. It just isn't. It does not look good in any way, shape, or form. And most of the alts are this way. Even DOT, which is back to its October levels, looks like it may have flirted with an all-time low. Some of these coins have worse inflation than others, worse public participation than others. And there's really nothing about this chart that to me is saying, yeah, I should sell BTC or I should sell Sol or I should even sell ETH to participate in this. It just doesn't make sense. Even if this is the stone cold low and it never goes below 358, the technicals do not support anything here other than chop or down. That's it. You can point to a candlestick and a wick, right? We can point to all that stuff, but we're just not there yet. It needs time. It needs time to repair itself. ADA, similar, below the daily cloud. And it's not going to move without you. If this magically moves up and has a move similar to 2023 into 2024, because you will be looking for the same thing. Some flat range, some chart pattern reversal, something. Even a falling wedge will take. But there's just nothing here. It's just nothing but down for weeks. Bitcoin hit all-time highs in March. Many alts hit local highs in March. And as Bitcoin has been ranging, alts have just been going lower continuously. And there just isn't any strength anywhere. Link is another one, flirted with a full retracement back to the October breakout level. This had several head and shoulders fractals in it. It had inverted head and shoulders attempts, but it has been below the cloud mostly since April. The good thing about Link is it trades very technically, so you just need time. You just need time. There just isn't anything here, right? I can't say that enough. There isn't anything here yet on a high time frame. You even had this before the breakdown. So you have these cross current patterns. You've got a diamond top here, just all sorts of stuff all over the place. But the broader big picture was down based on the head and shoulders. No surprise this broke down. The cloud was telling you down. There's just nothing here. And no surprise we broke up in October when the cloud was telling you we might break up when we're above the cloud. So that's what you're waiting for on all this stuff. That's where I like to buy, not whatever's going on here. SHIB, same thing, all the way back to its October breakout level. No strength whatsoever. And yes, it may have a 25%, it may have a 40% day. It may just explode off the bottom, but the trend is not on your side here. It just isn't. It just isn't. So thinking that we're going to see some crazy bounce magically just isn't reality. And it gets worse the further you go down this market cap list. This is LTC at lows, and it looks like it even broke the long-standing diagonal support that it had. If we want to be generous, looks like it broke down there. High time frame weekly cloud hasn't triggered any reversals here, bullish anything, since 2021. So all you have to do is wait. And for a lot of people, they just can't wait. But the train's not gonna leave without you. We know what to look for. We look for prices above the cloud. That's it. It's pretty simple. FET, some AI stuff, also doesn't look great. Never got back to the neckline here. Had the potential for a triple bottom, but we never got back above the cloud this entire time. I think that's why people misunderstand a lot of the breakout TA. They think, oh, someone's highlighting a pattern. Now is the time to take action. False. The time to take action is at the resistance or just after the breakout. So this never gave you a signal, and it held below the cloud this entire time. And this video at this point getting more and more depressing. ICP back at lows, not above the cloud, not even in the cloud. Interestingly, it got denied right at the cloud and went lower. It clearly had this going on for it, right? Clearly had a diagonal drifting into underneath the cloud, and it broke down. I mean, this is what you'd expect. Just as you'd expect the opposite. If we were to flip this chart the other way around, you'd expect the exact same thing. If the chart looked like this, you'd expect strength. You'd expect a huge breakout higher. So that's what you're looking for into Q4, not whatever we have here. Monero, sideways chop, nothing going on, redeeming from a technical perspective. It's at the same price it was since February 2022. Just gone nowhere. Regardless of the fundamentals, the privacy narrative, it hasn't done anything. Sui, one of these newer ones. And hey, oh look, an old channel. Let's look at this old channel. Still inside the old channel, still pointing down, still below the cloud. And it's just more of the same on all of these charts. Again, not enough dollars chasing too many assets, and prices go lower. Supply demand just isn't there. Near, another one in this gross wedge thing. Like I said, you could always take these trades with a stop loss at any lower low and just expect them to be stopped out and hope for the best. But broadly here, I don't think there's much going on anywhere. Ondo, a lot of people bullish on this for whatever reason. No, it's just, there's no strength in any of this stuff. And you shouldn't expect strength because this is not a risk on environment. This is not a high liquidity, low rate environment. This is a very restrictive environment, an inflationary period. And most of the audience trading these coins don't have money to trade. Let's just be real here. Maker, back down below the cloud. So before we end it, we'll look at the meme coin portfolio. This was an idea April 30th this year that I put together. If you're doing this for yourself, I would be mechanical with it, emotionless with it. If you really like whatever coin, whatever 10 coins, whatever 20 coins, whatever, this is what you want to see. You want to see weakness. That's the difficult part. If you're in it for the long term, if your time horizon is 5 years, 10 years, first you have to hope there aren't going to be another 10,000 alts to replace the current 10,000 alts or some other narrative. You better hope that these coins don't get delisted or forgotten about. But if you're bullish in a decent enough time horizon, then yeah, you could DCA this, or you could take a percentage of your allocation in whatever you're trading and say, okay, this sleeve is going to be specifically for DCA high risk junk, right? That's what this is. And over whatever time period you want, plan it out. And every week you just go in and buy it, and you don't care. You want the price to be lower because you're buying. You want the price to be lower. And this is why I weighted this after August as opposed to before August. So if you've been following this, you're already buying as prices are going down, but now prices are at deep, deep lows over the past 4 months. And if anything, you're hoping to scrape off the bottom here with the rest of your DCA into November. And I had to look at the meme coin index. This is actively managed, and the top 3 holdings are SHIB, Doge, and Pepe. This just continues to melt back to the October level. So dialing it back to the beginning, total 2 BTC, weak, dominance, strong, total 2 in USD terms, also weak. You just have to read the room. We talked about this into October. It wasn't a surprise. You can look at those videos in October. The TA will be on your side if we get some random move to, 5 trillion on total 2. We will be there. We will see it in the trend metrics. We are not there today. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.